Okay, hello everybody. Today we're going to make a quick app, a WPF Windows Presentation Foundation app with Visual Studio 2022 and Google Antigravity AI IDE. So this particular app will only take, maybe 15 minutes. It's going to be vibe coded, but the app we're going to make today, I had an issue. I was looking at my hard drive. Hard drive's full. I had a client last 6 months that every single day I would send them videos of the progress, new features and etc. for a software project. Now my videos directory is full. I had 500 or almost 500 videos, so I needed to see which ones I can delete. But the problem was the first frames were all of OBS, so I have no idea what's in the video based on the thumbnail. So I decided, okay, I'm going to vibe code a quick app. This app will go through and let me see what the video is about. So that way, when I see that I don't need that video, it's a work video, I can click delete. It's going to delete it permanently. Yeah, so I can scroll through the videos and see what I need to do. We're going to build this quick app. It would take 10-15 minutes tops, just vibe coding Visual Studio, Google Antigravity. We're going to do this one today, and I'll go over how I did that, and then I'll upload the source code also. All right, so, and we'll build upon this. If I get enough viewers, we'll build upon this. We'll put a nice UI on it, make it look good. But for now, I'm just going to focus on going and working with both editors. We have Visual Studio, we have Antigravity, and then we also, which is kind of important, the steps for the UI. Okay, so we'll do that, and let's get started. Okay, just on this app to get started, we're going to use just bare bone, plain WPF, and then coming up here in a second, we'll see a picture where we can use some open source or even community edition UI kit. But we're going to keep it plain and simple. We're going to use paint. So here we have, this would be material and design. We can make it look, this is kind of like something you can do with it. And this one is Sync Fusion Community Edition. Is this another app I did? So something like that. But for now, just to get this vibe coded real quick, we're going to do this paint. So we want to draw out how we want this to look. So to just get this out of the way real fast, I got a menu. We're going to have the file name in the top center. We're going to have two buttons, left and right, to navigate. We got a delete button, and then after I use this app, I added in a clear cache button so all the thumbnails can be blown out. And then I had a pre-processed thumbnails because when I ran it, I didn't even think about this. When I ran the app, the processing to get all the thumbnails to fill this grid we're looking at, it was take about 8 to 10 seconds per video. So what I did, I just created another function, and then we able to get the thumbnails for all the videos first, then scroll through as fast as we want. So we can use paint, and then we have another technique. We have paint, we're going to draw it out, and what I like to do is we're going to save this image, but we can also just paste this into Antigravity. We can just select a region, but we're going to give it some text, so it knows like what is where. And then when we have like the scroll bar, like we'll have that green, then we can have an arrow to the green scroll bar, which we'll see in a second. But you see here, I'm just kind of telling it, here's the thumbnail grid, and then the like the delete button is self-explanatory up on top because it has delete and text in it. Here's our vertical scroll bar that will auto scroll in case we need to do that, or in case we overflow, we need to scroll through, or maybe we added more settings in later to look at more thumbnails or something like that. But we'll keep the text green, say vertical scroll bar, and so on and so forth. So we're going to draw out our UI, okay, and then we will attach this within the chat in Gemini to get, and the thumb or the screenshots, massive help if you're just starting out with AI coding. Screenshots help tremendously. You should really use those. I think they do take up more tokens, but if you're kind of like, on an unlimited, or, it's going to save you a lot of time, it's well worth it. So screenshots are awesome. You should use snipping tool, or, have some kind of screenshot app, because screenshots help tremendously. So, but we have some other ways we can do the UI also. We'll look at that in a second. Okay, so we have our UI SketchUp, or our UI, And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy that to clipboard. We're going to go to Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude Anthropic, or Anthropic Claude, Opus, whichever you want to use, Copilot from Microsoft. They're all free. We're going to tell this to give us a plan for Google Antigravity. So we're going to have the AI from one of these free services. We're going to paste in our screenshot of our UI, and we're going to tell it what we're building, what it's going to do, and the features that we want. And then we're going to let one of these create a planning doc for us. For some reason, these public UI interfaces from the big providers, they seem to be just a little bit better than actual anti-gravity. Many times I've used Cursor and anti-gravity to come up with the plan for the application, but it always seems to be a little bit better with these services. And we're going to tell it what we want. We want 10 thumbnails per video if that is possible. If the video is too short, we're going to divide it by the amount of time in the video, and just if we have to get 4 thumbnails, that's okay. But if we have time for 10, we want 10. And then we're going to ask it to ask us any questions. So it's doing it. I'm telling it what I want it to do. And then, we're going to tell it the thumbnail size, even 320 by 280. We tell it we're going to use FFmpeg. If you're not sure which library you need to use, you can ask it. You can ask it a series of questions first. If you have an idea for, like, let's say you want to, one idea recently was connecting a Blazor web app to a desktop and then being able to see the desktop folders and windows. So I had to go through and I asked it, how would I connect Blazor that's hosted on Azure to connect to my desktop? And so we came up with a plan. So he will answer these questions. You can say what resources, what libraries are popular, but you should always double check, because many of the libraries, as you all know, because the training data for these models is, it's dated. So a lot of times there'll be newer libraries you can use in newer versions, especially. There's almost always newer versions, but you can ask it, how would I do this? How would I do that? Can you tell me how I put it all together? You sketch up a UI, you give it to it. Okay. So I'm telling it we need the delete button, we need this, we need that. So we're going to do this, and then it will be, I'm just telling it how I want it to work. And then we're going to have it printed out. We're going to copy that, and we're going to save it to a text file, and then we're going to put that into our docs folder in a new WPF project in Visual Studio. Okay, so I told it everything. I even told it where my FFmpeg was located, like all these little details. We want to give it that. That way, it's reflected in your plan, so you don't have to keep going back and changing things and modifying things. So we're going to tell it give as much detail as possible. Then, especially, I want to give the documentation. So I'm going to look up the documentation for XFFmpeg. I'm going to give it the URL. Even then, the Antigravity asked me about the FFmpeg library, but just to be safe, because some of these libraries have they share the same names, make sure that we give it the URL for the correct one, and then you make sure you all have all your bases covered. And then later we'll go over MCP servers, which is really cool. Like Context 7 is really nice. There's a lot of those that are great. But so we're going to give it any URL, any documentation it needs. Make sure it has all the details, even like where your FFmpeg is located. Okay, so we've executed the plan, and we have our Gemini, in this case, creating our project document for us. You can see it's got our UI screenshot up there. It's telling us all the technical requirements. Now all we need to do is we can copy this and paste it into Google Antigravity as a plan for the build. So we can hopefully do a one shot on this one. And what we want to do, we want to copy this text, and we're going to save it to a text file. We can name it docs. You can name anything you want, but we'll put that into the project folder in Visual Studio. That way we have it on hand, and then we can feed this to the AI model and Antigravity, and it will start building on this. Okay, so we copied our plan. And I'm going to paste it into Notepad real quick, because I don't think I have Visual Studio ready, but I'm just going to browse it real fast, make sure it all looks good. then we'll be ready to go with this. So we'll keep this going and just load up Visual Studio. Okay, so we got our Visual Studio open. We're going to create a WPF application. In this case, I'm using .NET 8. So we'll create the WPF app, and then we'll create a docs folder, and we'll paste our document in there that we got from the AI. So, and then we'll use that to code. So I'm going to give it the name, and everything too is in very, like pretty much mandatory. Git control, even if it's a local repository, super important. That's going to save your neck many times. And if we want to do a video on that, just let me know because that will save you. So if you make a mistake or something happens or AI goes off the rails, you can just roll back. You can also you get to your milestones, create a new branch and work on a new feature. That way, nothing happens to your good code, right? So now we're going to paste in our document here that we got from the web-based version of Google Gemini, right? So we just add a new item. It'll be a text file. We're going to name it MD. It seems that everything is a markdown format as far as AI coding goes and documentation. You see we got the colorization there. So now we'll go to Antigravity. We'll open a folder. We'll select our WPF video cleanup folder. Yeah, this is going to be in tandem with Visual Studio, and nothing will happen. Even if you're running Visual Studio on the project itself, it's going to be fine. I've never really had any troubles. The main thing you've got to look out for in coding in Visual Studio is that you keep your file sizes. I mean, you can be at like 1,000 lines now. It used to be 300 was a good point, but anyway, we want to really be careful of file sizes because it causes a lot of hallucinating of the AI when there's too much code in there. And also, a big one is, especially with C sharp, it will start leaving out your brackets. So it will cause a lot of errors simply because there's too much text in the file. So we want to, realistically, we should keep it at 500. We should keep it at 500. Then I'm going to create a rules file. And I don't know what happened to this one, but as we get errors, as we're working on each project, we want to keep building our rules file that has what we fixed. So if we have all kinds of problems in one project, let's say when we do another WPF project, we're going to have that rules file to prevent or hopefully prevent the errors that we had to fix the last time. So as you keep working and working and working, your rules file gets, is more intelligent and you have less issues as time goes on because it's going to know I have to, like, we're going to have an issue here in this one. This is why I wasn't able to one shot. There was one problem with a value converter. And if it had that previously, if I had known that it doesn't know how to do value converters, then we wouldn't have had that problem. So we want to create a rules file. We can have it always on, however you want to do that. But the rules are super important. So we're starting off with a brand new project, and I'm new to Antigravity, so we have like a regular just starting out these rules. So I'm going to tell it because AI models and regarding the WPF, they love adding like colored fonts. It loves like instead of using the auto layout, the star system and auto and WPF, the grid system, it likes to create canvases and all these hard coded uh, values in the XAML. It's not good. It's not good. So I want to tell it, hey, just minimal. Keep everything default. We don't want blue font. We don't want fixed sizes. We don't want canvases in here. We want to use the grid system, the star and auto. Let it auto size. Leave every font plain. And that way, when we use a UI kit later, we won't have to go back and change those. The text will be ready for that. Okay, so I had to reopen Anti-gravity, because I had started the project in Visual Studio after it was already open, so I just had to restart it. You're going to open the same exact folders you have open in Visual Studio. It's no problem. You can work in tandem like we just talked about. Now we're going to add to the context the main window, the XAML, and then the main window code behind. Next time, sometime in the future, we'll do MVVM, with Community Toolkit or something like that. But for now, we just want this. We want to make this like a 10, 12-minute project. So that way you can build little utilities. So we're going to tell it, we're going to attach also the plan MD file that we created, and then we're going to tell it we're going to run this plan. We want to build this app, and then so now it's processing our main window, and those are the blank or the new files that it's going to work with. It should be pretty good because there's nothing in there. There's nothing to confuse it. So it should run through and do a pretty good job. Now it's telling us, we're going to put the package in there. And that's a great thing about AI now. You can tell it, I need to add, uh, Newtonsoft JSON, and it will just update your project file. You can build and it works. So it's going to ask me some questions. We want to make sure we take time to answer these questions. And we got these questions because you may get them anyway, but you always, when you start a new project or a new chat, you should say, or you're doing a new segment, you should ask the AI, do you have any questions? If you don't do that, it's going to try to code for you no matter what, most of the time, unless you're like in planning mode. You should always use planning mode. Um, and if you don't have that, there are some MCP servers which we'll go into later. But what we want to do is ask the AI, if you have any questions, please ask me before we start. So it's asking me things, and because I left all this out, and since we're just blazing through this real fast, we have to do this. But if I was thinking about thoroughly before in our planning, he probably wouldn't have had to ask me because I would have already had suggested these features. But they're good questions though. They're good questions. It's like, where do you want the thumbnails? Are they in memory? Are they going to be stored to the disk? How do you want to delete it? Is it going to just be deleted from the grid? Are we going to delete the actual file? In this case, I got to tell them I want the file deleted, so on and so forth. So I'm just answering all these questions, and then we'll move on. Okay, we're almost complete with this step, and you'll notice on the chat window there where I'm typing, you'll see we already have a screenshot, so I just copy and pasted that from Paint. And then you'll notice, so I'm adding the last of my instructions here. And what we can do is, a little tip is, if we have two images, we can tell it C pick 1, C pick 2, C pick 3, etc. So, and we don't need to actually save the file in this case. So I'm just adding the buttons I want for the navigation, and then we're going to copy this image and paste this. So I added the buttons to it because that was a little something I added later. So we're going to copy this guy, and then we'll paste it in. We're just going to name him pick 2 or picture 2. Okay, so we're going to kick this off, and hopefully we can one-shot it. And then so I pasted my two pictures in there, had the one with the buttons, the first one, and then now we're running it. And you notice, like, I typed a lot. So this is a big mistake I think a lot of new people use, or people that are not too, fluent with AI coding. You can't be lazy, especially with a feature or a new app. You should try to cover every single thing you can, type as much as you can, and even sometimes I will kind of reiterate myself. So even if you have paragraphs, that's super important. I used to work with a guy on a massive code base, and he would say, and this guy had like 20 years experience, right? He's like, oh, yeah, fix the button on the top right. Like, it's looking at 20,000 lines of code. Like, which button? Like, and he would get frustrated, like it was because he was too lazy to type in what he needed to do. So we can't do that. So here we got our plan, and this is the plan that came from Antigravity. If we had skipped over the website plan that we did in the very beginning of this section, it would have done pretty much the same thing. We would just had to type in here, and it wouldn't be probably as accurate. I mean, you can do it here. It's not a a make or break type choice. Okay, so we're just getting this, making sure, and we're gonna like buzz through our plan right here, and then we're gonna run this thing. Okay, great. So it built the first time. There is an issue. It's a converter, but I also forgot to tell it, and this should be in the rules file, especially for desktop apps, WinForms, WPF. I do it on all my .NET apps. Instruct the AI. The user must run the application from Visual Studio because it'll run it from here, which is works, but your debugging and everything is gone. And you have no control. So tell it that we need to run the application via the user. Okay, we do have one error, which is pretty much expected. I actually expected more than this. So, this is an AI model, not trained too well WPF. So we have a converter error. So there's a built-in converter in WPF, a null visibility, and so we have that error because it didn't declare or decorate the converter correctly. So what we do now, we go to output or the air tab in Visual Studio. Sometimes it's the output for different things. We can see the bool to visibility converter. It doesn't know where it is, so we threw an error. We just copy that error and we paste it right here. So I tell it first it's a null to visibility issue, the converter issue. Then we have the issue. It says line 20, so he knows where to go. We'll just copy this and then we'll paste the whole error in here. And for you newer people, especially with .NET, a good way to quickly fix errors is to put a breakpoint and use a try catch block. Put a breakpoint on the exception and give the AI the stack trace, the whole thing, and usually it'll narrow it down and fix it for you. So we give it the error. He knows what it is. He just said that he put it too low in the file, which is expected. Like they're not really spectacular with WPF and a lot of other .NET languages like Blazor, Maui, and all that. So it's running. He's going to fix this error. We're going to run this thing and let's see what happens now. Okay, so he's run and he's building it, but I had forgot to put in the rules file or to explicitly tell the AI that the user must run this app. So we got an issue because of that. But it is building, so everything's good. And I want to show one thing for the newer people. So when we need to run it through Visual Studio, right? So we do have one more error, and what we're going to do is we're going to tell uh, Antigravity that what our issue is. So we load fine, it works, and it's finding the files, but it's not displaying them. So we're just going to go tell AI what's going on here, and then he's going to look for a fix. So let's do that. We're telling him we select this, it works, and then but this doesn't work. The thumbnails are not showing up, and so we have an issue there with that. And then now what that's going to be, he'll tell us, but this is going to be I believe a binding issue here. So he's going to fix that for us, which is cool. He's going to fix it. So we had two errors. This is not really a big deal. This is AI not knowing WPF too well. So we just tell him this is our error we're getting now. Here's the error we're getting this time. And then if you have the output in Visual Studio, the output tab or the error tab, you want to copy all that. If it's multiple of the same error, just different code line numbers, just give him a couple of each, and he'll fix it for you. So let's see what we got. So he rebuild. Now he says user's going to run the command. So we'll run this and let's see what happens here. Okay, we run it and we have a binding error. So this is good. I left this in to show you how to quickly fix these errors. So we got a binding error. Not a big deal. What we're going to do, we're just going to go to the output. We're going to copy these error messages. We're going to paste it into Antigravity and he will fix it for us. Okay, this error is a direct side effect of us or me not being thorough with my planning. I just type some stuff real fast, want to make this happen in 10 minutes. So what happened was, because I didn't instruct it, it needs JSON. So what we happened is the NuGet package is too old. So we need to, I did instruct it, say we need version 35. So now he has a very old version because that's what the model was trained on. Apparently there's an issue somewhere. So we need to, this happened because we did not tell it specifically. We want version 35 of system.text.json. We want version 12, 2.3 of, XFFmpeg. We were lazy. So that's why if we be thorough and not lazy, we're gonna have much less errors. So now finally, looks like he's loading thumbnails. FFmpeg is extracting the thumbnails from each video, and it works. So there's 10 pictures. This tells me, okay, this video is pretty long. Has diagrams and looks like some WPF. So now I know, okay, that video I probably want to keep. This one, that was a WPF training. Here we have yeah, this is a training session that I was doing with WPF for people. So that'll keep. And then when I see like this junk, this is a boxing game. Like we don't need that. I could click delete on that. So that's the idea here. But you notice now that we need to make a few more changes because that's taking too long. Okay, great, it works, but we have a few issues. So one, it takes too long to load all the thumbnails for each, so we're going to need to do that first and then go review. Two, when we delete a file, we get a dialog. We don't want to be clicking all these buttons. The idea is to be fast with it, and so we're loading. And also we don't really know where we are in the folder. So it navigates, but it's loading. So we're going to make our preloader, and then we're going to make a dialog with the list of files, and we're going to remove that message box that says, okay, we deleted. So okay, but it works, so that's good. And actually we need to add a database to this to track which videos we saved, so we don't have to enumerate over them again and recreate thumbnails. We should reuse old thumbnails, all these things. But this is would have been about 10, 15, 20-minute app. So but we can always add to it. So I'm going to tell it, like, remove the dialog or remove the message box when you delete a file. And then we're going to need to come up with like a list of files as we select the folder, so we at least see what's going on. It'd probably be ideal to actually have a list of files in the selected folder with a thumbnail. But like I said, in this case, OBS is a capture software. It always has the same first thumbnail, so for at least for like 3 seconds, so you don't know which is which based on just looking at the file in the Explorer. So I'm telling it, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to remove the dialog, we're going to make it so we have a file list, and then we're going to have it preload all the thumbnails for all the files, tell us when you're done, and then we can just scroll through real quick. Okay, we just told it, hey, give us a dialog. After we select a folder, we want to see a list of all the files. And then maybe later we'll put filtering or something in for date and size, etc. So let's run this and see what happens. So we should have a dialog list. It's up here. It says list files. And that was pretty easy. No problem. We select the videos folder. We get the list of files. But this loading of thumbnails, this has gotta need some work. Okay, so there's all of our files. Okay, so yeah, there's some other time, kind of added a little bit to this, but good enough for now. And then when we select the file from the list, it will load it, and then we can continue on forward with our forward button. So this is an old Blazor app I did, so I don't need that anymore, so I can press delete on that, and we should no longer have the dialog when we press delete. We click delete. Let's see what happens. Does it do it? Yep. No worries. It just loads the next video. Okay, cool. So the next feature that we're going to add will be probably the last here, is we're going to have it just run all the apps or the videos so we don't have to wait individually on thumbnails. It will do them all at once. And I don't believe there's any way to speed that up because Essentially, all these FFmpeg wrappers do is they just execute FFmpeg the process. So it'd be like process start new process, and so we just have to let FFmpeg do its thing, and it just takes that time. So we're gonna do that next. And when we have this new clean app, it's pretty easy to add these features. So we just want to go in little segments. You can see here it's real simple. I just say we need a clear cache button to remove the thumbs from the app path after using. So that's good enough, and now it's going to do it just within a few seconds. So we get the main section going, and then we just add these small features as we go. Okay, in this little segment here, we're going to go over which is probably one of the most important things when vibe coding. That's why I would recommend desktop IDEs instead of the website versions. Uh, and now they have Git on those too, but Git, we want to always have a Git repository. So I created one, I believe, when I first started this project, but let's kind of run through real fast. No, we're going to create it now local. So even local only. And you can read the commands. There's only 4 or 5 that you need to know. But this will, if we have a problem, if the AI blows out a file or something gets corrupted, we can always just roll right back. And also, when we create, we get hit like a milestone. Like I'm going to create a new branch now, so I'll call this develop. And so now, because I'm going to be adding a more of a feature here where we automatically go through and just process all the thumbnails. So now on develop, if something happens, I have this base application to go back to that's working perfectly. And if I ever need to go back to it, I can go back to it. If I want to add a feature parallel with the automatic thumbnail of all videos, I can do that also, and then just merge it in. But you want to do this, and you don't have to push it to GitHub or anything. It's gonna be local. It comes with Visual Studio, so we want to do that. Okay, so we're gonna create a Git repository, even local. Okay, and this is a very important aspect of maintaining your projects to have the maximum context you can to keep it as clean and most performant as possible. Is you remember we started off with our document, right? We need, as we hit these milestones or add features, we need to keep those up to date with, up to current. We need to keep our documents current with what's going on within the code base, where we are in the code base, our current structure and our features. And this really should have been a README. I'll do a whole different video on just the documents and the Git because we're just focused on making this quick app. But we want to make sure as we hit these milestones, we update our planning docs or our documents in general, and don't allow the AI to just keep throwing you docs. When I first started, it kept saying, "Do you want a planning doc? Do you want an implementation doc? Do you want a features doc?" Yeah, I'm just doc. Give me all the docs. Well, what happens is if you don't maintain them and you start getting more and more and more and more, it could be late at night, you go to sleep, you forget, weekend happens, you forget you got 4 unupdated docs, it will cause big problems with your context. So as your project is larger and larger, all these orphan docs and all these different states that aren't up to date, things aren't, implemented yet. Like you want to keep those in sync with where your project is and all the features you have. Same thing with commented out code. Yeah, that used to be a bad habit of mine when I was working on my own. Was I'd have these complex things, and I would comment out like a method. I would add a new one. I would comment out another one, edit the other. But with AI, it will still read into your commented code, and that caused me trouble in the beginning too. So like all these orphan docs and all these different states, not updated, commented out code. The cleaner you can keep your code, the better. In fact, we should be adding XML headers or method documentation so AI knows even more about this project. But yeah, we're gonna update our doc. Okay, the first one we put in. And one more thing that's really going to help us out too is the more and more coding we do, the all the projects in the future, they're going to get better and better and faster and more accurate because as we fix problems, we're going to keep updating our rules file. So that way, like we had the null to visibility converter problem. Next time we won't have it. We had the JSON NuGet package too out of date. Next time we won't have that. So all the things that we fix, all the issues, we're gonna put those into the rules, and we could set run always. But really, you should be able to just call those when you run a WPF app, of course. But yeah, we'll update our rules, all of our documentation. That way, with the rules, it will be much smoother the more you projects you work on in the future. Okay, so now we're going to do our very last feature, which is generating all the thumbnails at once instead of one by one by one, where we had to wait 8 seconds in between each single video. That just not going to work. We could rather just run it and let the thumbnails all generate and then come back in 5-10 minutes and then start skimming through all the videos. So that's what we told them. Now we're going to create what's like a sub plan. So we had our original plan. Now we're going to create a specific plan in a document for only the feature of the generating all thumbnails of the loaded directory or folder. So we've done that, and we tell it you must only work on this. Do not refactor, do not name any variables, only do this plan, only work on thumbnail generation, nothing more, nothing less. Because especially Gemini, Google Gemini within Antigravity, that thing will go all over the place. Claude Opus and Claude Sonnet seems to be better, but Gemini will go all over. It will rename all the variables. It'll add this. It'll add that. It will overwrite Claude's code. So, in fact, I recommend when you're doing this using this anti-gravity is if you start a project with one model, stick to that model. So like, because I've done Opus and then I tell Gemini I need to do this or that. Gemini comes up and I see all this green in my get changes, and it's because the naming conventions they use is very different for like fields and properties, and it just decided, oh, I'm going to go rename all this. So I read something about why these models do it, and some are more inclined to do it than others as far as like all these sweeping changes. But nonetheless, it's best if possible to stick to the one model. And also on the bottom there, on the bottom right, you see my usage. So that's a plugin. I'll have to look that up. So this will tell you how many more calls you have for your Opus or your Gemini, and when your cooldown period is over, how many more hours you got to wait or minutes or whatnot. But it's a free plugin, so it's very useful. That thing's awesome. So I'll link to that. So you might want to use that one. And also for you that are using the free version, the paid plan is well worth it. I had Cursor. I saw this. I tried it because I love Opus and Sonnet. And Cursor it gets expensive very very quickly. So it's still a good tool. It's well worth it. Cursor. I've used it for a year and a half. It's a super awesome tool. But this one, for $20, at least for now, I think is maybe because it's like a newer app. They're allowing like really really generous usage of these premium models. So that I switched to this one for now. I've been working on this for like 2 weeks, and so every single day I haven't used Cursor yet. I just burned through so many tokens. But anyway, I think it's a good value. You should definitely upgrade. It's well worth it. The $20 for what you get out of it is nothing. So let's do this feature. And then my point though with this is showing this is like we want to make it stick to the feature itself. No, don't let it drift on you. Okay, very good. It added the thumbnail generation because we had that sub plan. Did it with one shot here. So we're gonna test it out, and we're gonna load the videos folder, and then I'm gonna click pre-process, and this you can see it's done 2. It's done. I'm gonna do 3. Okay, so it works. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let that run for I don't know 10 minutes or whatever it's gonna be, and then I will come back and I can skim right through these videos just one by one very quickly. So very good. So got a good tool. Be able to clean up my hard drive, uh, get rid of all those videos that I don't know what they are of, and clear up a lot of space. So let's take a look, and then that will be about it. So I ran the app, and we're finally done. And so we have 429. I already deleted about 100, but we were at 429. It took a half hour to render all these thumbnails for 429 videos, but it scrolls right through now. See, so there's no need to wait around like this guy. Yeah, this one, delete that. Just save that. I don't really need to save, but anyway, you see, so we have the list of files, and maybe in the future, we can do something like what might actually work good here is widen this out, put filters for the date, the size, to filter through, and we could actually even make an animated GIF. So we can go like, 10 frames and just show the animation here, make these bigger. Uh, but yeah, it clears the cache, it pre-processes everything. Yeah, it works, So, but what we'll do maybe next time, maybe we'll just add a UI kit to this. We have like Telluric, Sync Fusion, apps, Material Design, and XAML, which kind of looks like the older Google Material Design. Um, yeah, so but at least we vibe coded this thing. It would have took me about 20 minutes, So for a quick utility, it will save me a lot of time and space on my hard drive. I don't need to go looking through these videos anymore, so that's great. So we will look though at the other ways to build up the UI in just a minute, and that will be about it. So if this helped out, give me some ideas on like what you might want to see next. Did you want to like build this app up and maybe add a bunch of features like video preview, maybe like trim out certain parts, something like that. But thanks a lot, and take care. Again, as far as WPF and Maui goes, we can also use XAML IO. This is a free tool, XAML IO. I believe it's from the Microsoft team. But you can see we have our XAML here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. So this we can design here and take a look, and then we can take a screenshot of this. So, and I believe we can save it too if we were to log in and probably go to Azure, maybe GitHub, maybe. I haven't tried that yet. But they have layouts. See, they have different types. They have like the grids. I think you can drag and drop items in there. Yeah, we can do that. So we can use this tool too. I'm not very adept at it. It looks very cumbersome, honestly, but this is an option. But they do have this AI section, so I've used this a little bit before. Um, not a huge fan really, but we can tell it, um, add a horizontal menu bar, a delete button, and a center. So we can tell it what we want. It'll process this and try to render something for us. But yeah, I'm not a fan. But this is an option. Just that letting you guys know. So we can use a little AI tool here. Also, probably a better idea, honestly, would be well, we can let this go. I hope it keeps running. What we can do is like there's a like Replit or Base 44 or VO. Let's see if we can take a quick look at that. Yeah, these are all free. They allow you to do a little bit. VO is cool, and a lot of these are pretty good because as long as they have the GitHub connection. So I'm gonna go look at something else I did earlier. Just messing around with this thing here. So, and if we go here, so I can clone this to GitHub. Then I can go to GitHub and get the files. Or what we could do at this point, then, if it's going to load for us or not, we could take a screenshot and then say this is what it will look like. But that way, the whole time we can just type in what we want it to look like. And these do pretty good. And Base 44 is actually pretty good. Um, It's a good one for free. The only problem with this, you can't download or go to GitHub unless you pay. But the others, VO, Replit, it's pretty good. I think. I think it's fair. They allow you to download and also push to GitHub, and you can take your files from there, and then feed that into. You can attach that and put that inside your docs directory, and you can say here's a React or HTML representation of the UI that I want, and let AI try to figure it out. But honestly, all these AI tools, the Cursor, Antigravity, they're not very good with XAML at all, or Blazor for that matter. It's just as far as the C sharp coding goes, yeah, that's good, but the UI is yeah, it needs a lot of work. So, but anyway, let's see where we are here. Okay, so we're at 293, so I'm waiting for it to load. But anyway, so that's for our UI, right? So instead of, or we can just, what I normally do, I just build a screenshot, I give it the screenshot, and again, we would go to like this XAML IO. We could, if that's something what we want to do, we could tweak it. If not, we could get our snipping tool. We can get new snipping tool. We go over here. We can copy this. We don't need to save the file to feed it to AI. We go here. We could paste it right here. See how it pastes. So we could paste it right there and tell like this is the UI we want, and go from there. So those are some options. You could do the same thing here. We could snip this. Let's say, for example, if this was, I don't want to waste a project by just making another grid with thumbnails, but you could copy it. We could go paste that here. Say, here's my, paste it in here. Here's my UI, and let it go. Okay. So we can do that. So, but then, okay, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see how it goes, and maybe we'll do some more vibe coding later. All right, take care. Thank you.